Gallimera. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And what a beautiful day it is today after you compare what the weather was like yesterday. And do you know what? Yesterday was just such a weird day. It was just a horrible day yesterday. We think we may have lost the little chicks yesterday. We saw them in the morning, we fed them in the morning. Mum then took them away. And then throughout the day, we were just sort of going back to check, and they just seemed to disappear. The mother was a bit distressed about it all. We then mistook them for another bunch of chicks. We thought, oh great, they're back. But unfortunately, we think that due to the really weird weather yesterday, that we may have lost the little chicks. But that's what happens, unfortunately. That's the way life is. Nature took its course, and the little ones obviously didn't survive after having a bit of a rescue earlier on. It's also the anniversary of the passing of one of our little cats from last year today as well, little Lily. She was a gorgeous little girl. Unfortunately, she got run over by some idiot who was trying to get nowhere quickly. So yeah, it's a bit of a reflective day today, and at least the weather is nice, and the weather is on the mend, which is looking good. Also as well, the old roosters are about making lots of noise. Quick shout out to Shane Bowen up there on Exmoor. I bet it's nice up on Exmoor today, or have we got the good weather now, mate, and you've got the bad weather? That's the question now. But anyway, this is it today. And when you stand in the sun, it's absolutely glorious. It really is. It's a little bit of a chill, but not much. But it's like we're just looking forward to things getting back as we approach Easter this week. So this is a mega week this week, and there's quite a bit of news about Easter as well. And looking across to Sillery at the moment, according to TripAdvisor, the number 3 destination for people to go and visit, and the number 1 destination for people to go and visit in Greece at the moment, according to the old TripAdvisor. It's looking like it's going to be a lovely day over there. Jane and I haven't decided what we're going to do today, whether we're going to go for a walk along the beach, or maybe we might go somewhere else, because we're allowed, all right, and because it's what do you call it? So there you go, the old chickens are up and about making noise as always. So let's quickly have a look at the news for today. I've got to be honest, I actually wrote the news this morning because like yesterday, I couldn't get motivated yesterday, to be quite honest. So let's quickly go through the news then. Let's see what's been going on in the last 24 hours here in Greece. And here we go. Right, first of all then, it's the 25th of April. It is now day 170 of the lockdown, 170 days we've been in lockdown. COVID in the last 24 hours. Well, in the last 24 hours, it's been very interesting at the moment. Infections are down from 2,754 new infections yesterday to now 2,597 new infections across Greece, bringing the total amount of infections to 31,730, of which 51.8 are male, as it always seems to be. Anyway, as for infections coming in through borders on the country, that is down as well. The other day I reported it was 12. Today it is 6. And according to the national stats yesterday, there was 1 new case in Macardo. There was 3 cases in Kefalonia, 13 cases in Corfu, and Zakynthos was only showing 1 case. However, unfortunately, we have had actually a death yesterday here on Zakynthos. A 75-year-old woman died on Saturday at the hospital. She'd had serious underlying diseases that affected her. She'd recently been diagnosed with COVID, being positive for COVID, and she was being treated in the clinic of the hospital, both in what they call the pathology department, which is like the general ward of the hospital, and obviously in the COVID clinic as well. And she probably was moved into there once she'd been found that she was positive for the virus. And this now, she then went into the incubation. That's all the information we've had, and then she passed away yesterday. So once again, our condolences to the family. This now brings the death toll on the island to 6 this year in 2020, and 9 since the pandemic started last year. So once again, our condolences to the family of the 75-year-old lady who passed away. When it comes to the infections, then there was only 1 case of coronavirus detected on the island. That was through a PCR test. The local press is saying that this is good because over the last few days, the amount of positive cases has actually been dropping. And so maybe this might be a good indication that we may then come out of the deep red status that we're in at the moment within Greece. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that, and fingers crossed that we will come out of that status. When it comes to the death rate at the moment, obviously that death rate is up, unfortunately. Yesterday I reported that we'd had 76 deaths. Today I can report there's been 86 new deaths across Greece. Obviously one of them is now from the 75-year-old lady here in Zakynthos. That brings the death toll now up to 9,950. The average age of those people passing away, 79 years of age, and 90% of them had underlying health conditions or were over the ages of 70. So again, our condolences to those families that have been affected with a loss to their family at this time. As for critical cases at the moment, now critical cases are actually down. Yesterday I reported there was 819 people in critical states in ICUs across Greece. At the moment, the number has dropped down to 797, of which 509 are male and 288 are female. So again, that's a move in the right direction. And again, once remember that the ceiling is 900. That is the amount of beds that the country can cope with for their NHS system to obviously be able to function. That number is obviously, it's slipping down away from that number, which is obviously good news as well. Right, today's news then. The Greek police activated a plan for intensive controls on Friday, aiming to limit travel between the regions in a view that Easter week is now on the way, and we are now technically in Easter week. This time next Sunday, it will be Easter Sunday. So the police have been out and about, especially in the Attica region, checking vehicles, checking traffic. In addition to intensive controls at the toll gates, police will also be using helicopters and drones as well to check traffic on the smaller roads that obviously skirt around where the toll booths are, making sure that people are not going to try and take, shall we say, a rat run, as it were, to try and get themselves back to their villages or to wherever they want to go during the Easter period. Anyway, they've actually said, the Greek police, that more than 10,000 police officers are now involved, while anyone who tries to pass off fake documents will also face hefty fines and additional sanctions as well. Anyway, traffic police data showed there that the increase in traffic on the national road network was only marginally greater from April the 16th, which was also a Friday, than what it was last Friday, which was the 23rd. So people obviously are taking the hint, and they are not moving about as much as what they would probably have done if there had been no restrictions in place. Anyway, moreover, most residents of Attica have so far shown compliance with the announced inter-regional travel ban. The decision for tighter inspections was taken in anticipation that a number of people will attempt to defy restrictions in order to spend the Easter holidays in the countryside, mostly with their families in the villages. And again, the mass exodus from the cities at Easter is a customary feature of Greek life here. But this year's holiday, the Orthodox Sunday, is on May the 2nd, will be the second time in a row that people have not been able to travel to be with their immediate family over the Easter period. And again, for those people who don't really really understand, Easter is far bigger than Christmas, far bigger than what the Americans have their what they call homecoming thing. I can't remember the name of it now, but Easter here in Greece is far bigger a celebration than what Christmas is, and this is why. And of course, it's a nicer time of year. The weather's better, and of course, normally anyway. And of course, people just want to be with their families at this time. Also interesting, more information's coming out about what you can do over the Easter weekend in regards worship. Now, worshippers must wear double masks now, it seems, during church services over the Easter week, according to the rules that are announced by the Deputy Protection Minister, Nikos Hariadis. He also added that the ratio of one person per 25 square metres will continue to apply during services, along with the sanitary measures, which are also already in place with adequate ventilation. So they're going to keep the windows open. It's probably going to be cold in the churches. And social distancing is also going to be done. And also disinfection as well of the churches. Now, the ratio outside the churches during the services has been set at one person per 10 square metres. So normally when you go down to the churches, there's lots of people outside the churches, everybody pushed together, ready to light the Christos and Nesti candles, which are then taken carefully home, where people then bless their entrances to their homes for the year. Well, that obviously is not going to happen on the same scale, as you're only allowed one person per 10 square metres. So that's going to cut down the amount of people that are allowed outside of the churches. Now, also during this as well, worshippers must also wear mandatory 2 masks, one on top and one underneath, and they've got to be worn both inside the church and outside the church as well, and that's mandatory for people to do that at that time. Anyway, services will also start outside the church. Normally people are turning up at the church for midnight, but this year, you must be at the church. It will start at 9 p.m. On May the 1st with the litany following. And the timings will allow worshippers to be home in time for the 10 p.m. curfew. So basically, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock you go to the church, you can stand outside, wait for the candle to come out, obviously get your candle lit, and then wacky races to get back to your house, wherever you might be, for 10 a.m. for the curfew. Normally, this would happen at midnight. We go for midnight, light the candle, and then we go off for a traditional early morning meal, which is I've had it once with Jane, and it's basically offal. It's an offal style meal, and actually, in fact, it might look disgusting. It's actually very nice, and that normally is a tradition, but again, I don't think nobody's going to be doing that tradition unless you're preparing that in your home for when you get back. Anyway, also interestingly as well, yesterday the Greek Development Minister Andios Georgios said, referring to the planned opening on May the 3rd, this is in regards restaurants, there will be no curfew violation for anyone leaving a restaurant at 11 p.m. when it closes. Now, this is all a bit vague at the moment. Remember, the 3rd of May is when restaurants and bars are allowed to be open. They can only serve people outside, and then they're limited to the amount of, obviously, people that can sit at tables, all the stuff basically we had from last year. But this is kind of a little bit of a quandary at the moment, and he did actually say this in passing while he was doing an interview on Mega TV on Saturday night. He actually did say there's going to be no questions of fines or anything like that. Maybe this is a one-off, all right, just to get people used to the idea. Maybe it's the generosity of Easter. Anyway, he says the key thing he said as well is vaccinations. He said vaccination is the key. If we persuade our fellow citizens to get vaccinated, then what we are discussing now will not matter. He also added, stressing that once we reach the wall of immunity, we will be able to open everything without any problems, as in Israel. He also said that the closing time for restaurants has been set at 11 p.m. because the infection rate still remains high. Now, this is also a little bit of, shall we say, setting you up. At the moment, everybody seems to be looking at Israel as a model as to what's been going on. I just reported yesterday that Israel have started to having a maskless society now. As long as you have your vaccination, you are allowed to go into restaurants, bars and cafes, etc. But if you haven't had the vaccination, you can't go in. And I also, Lady Jane told me this morning that Michael Gove now has gone over to Israel to have a look at this method that the Israelis are using of basically vaccination gives you access, and he's going over there to see for himself to see if he might be bringing that back to the UK as an idea. Anyway, you know my feelings on this. I just feel it's a slippery slope. And a nice stealthy way that if you don't get vaccinated, you can't participate in society. So again, there's a lot of rhetoric now being pushed forward to push people to have the vaccination. But again, it should be your choice. You shouldn't be told you've got to have it. It should be your choice what you put in your body. Anyway, interestingly, there has been, again, with the death toll now, another article which is related round about vaccinations, which I saw again this morning. This was published this morning, and I'm going to basically read you the article. A total of 9,864 deaths have now so far been recorded over the 14-month period since last year, when COVID-19 started to take its toll in Greece, when the second wave of the pandemic being the deadliest since Greek authorities had confirmed 4,212 fatalities in the 2 months of November and December 2020. Now, according to the health authorities, about 96% of the patients that died due to complications from the virus had not been vaccinated. Okay, and against this backdrop, the Greek authorities and the Prime Minister, Mitsotakis himself, has reiterated their calls for people to get their shots. Anyway, indicatively, in March and April of this year alone, with the third outbreak of the pandemic in full swing, 3,360 deaths of patients had been recorded, which is quite high considering that the vaccination program had been underway for 4 months, with priority given to seniors who were more vulnerable to serious illness and death. Anyway, deaths from COVID-19 concerns patients who are characterised as the very serious, irreversible cases and with underlying diseases. Now, I've got to be honest. You can't blame people that because they got ill was because they weren't vaccinated, especially with what's been going on. We know that the vaccination system here was slow to get rolled out initially. There were also issues being placed upon Greece from the EU, where doses of vaccine that had been ordered, they could not fulfill the order because the EU had stepped in and took control of the distribution of vaccine. But I think to blame people and say, well, it's your fault you got ill because you didn't have the vaccination, I think is rather callous. I think you've got to look at everybody as an individual. You've got to look at the picture of the people that have passed away due to this. Were they able to get a vaccination at the time this all happened? I know that Greece's first priority was to get people of the age of the over 80s to get them vaccinated first, and then obviously worked out people in other age groups down. And I know in my age group, 60, we were one of the first age groups to be vaccinated. But I just think to turn around and blame people themselves that, oh, it's your fault that you died because you didn't have the vaccination, I think is a rather callous attitude. And now I understand where the statement that Tsipras, the former Prime Minister and the head of the Syriza party, was coming from when he said again on Friday in the Greek Parliament that you're blaming people for getting ill because it's their fault that they didn't get vaccinated. I can understand where that comment from him now is coming from when you read what is being put out at the moment. Anyway, it was said that the number of deaths clearly depends on the stage of the pandemic. It was also noted, stressing in particular that during the phase, many patients being admitted and many in the hospitalised in the simple beds, that means just a normal hospital bed, not in the COVID clinics, were estimated at about 8 to 10%. That would go from those ordinary beds up into having to go into an ICU bed. Anyway, last week, on average, there was 480 COVID patients were admitted to hospital per day, while the number of incubated patients in this third wave reached an average of 850 per day, compared to the 622 on the worst day of the second phase. Now, one thing I will say that has been, and while I've been watching the statistics and looking at the actual numbers for people in the ICUs, no time have we been given numbers to say that from the drop in numbers, whether that is through a death or whether that is through a recovery, the only thing that's been really talked about is the fact it's the number of beds that are available for people to get sick. So again, the figures, the way that they've been presented, are not really telling the full story. We did at the beginning of the pandemic get given numbers to say how many people had actually survived and left hospital. But to be honest, within the last 2, maybe 3 months now, we're not seeing those how many people got better statistics. All we're being given is the death number and the amount of beds that are occupied and the amount of infections that we have. No sort of, we might have 820 people in ICU. The number then drops down to say 815. Where did those people that drop go? Did they get moved to a normal clinic, or did they actually remarkably recover and leave the hospital, or did they in fact pass away? That information has not been made very, very clear at this point, and I think maybe the reason for that is to emphasize vaccinations. So again, it's kind of playing with people's thoughts, and if you don't ask questions, you're not going to get the answers. Anyway, according to this, again, a lady called Miss Panagoni has said, we at the hospital, we will relax when the vaccination starts proceeding quickly, emphasizing that people should not be afraid to get vaccinated. However, trends since April the 10th appears more promising, as the percentage of 65 to 69-year-olds have been vaccinated rose from 50% to 60%. The percentage for the 60 to 64 age group went from 47 to 55, while the group 70 to 74, it was up from 57% to 61%, and the percentage of the 75 to 79 group reached 80%. The percentage in the 80 to 84 group is marginally higher at 65% from 63%, while for those over 85, the percentage rose 62% to 63%. So again, another thing that I was watching another article yesterday was everybody expects people to survive. And I think another thing that kind of is getting overlooked is that unfortunately people do actually die. And at the moment, I think a lot of questions about death are being raised as well. When you see people at the age of 85, 86, 87, they've had a good life. And obviously, we come to the end of our lives. And I think this is one thing that has happened with coronavirus. It has also raised that question of mortality with people, and also made people question more than ever their own life, their life cycle. And not everybody is going to survive the pandemic, because either they got underlying health issues which are being exacerbated by the virus, or the fact is that we get old and we die. And that's the bottom line of it. It might sound like a callous thing to say, but in fact, it's part of life. and I do know in my own father's feelings that he got to the point in his life where he just didn't want to live anymore, and he just decided that he would give up, or and there are people who are like that. So again, it seems to me to blame people that their death is because they didn't get vaccinated and they're of a good age in hospital. One, it gives hope to the family that if they had the vaccination, they'd be with you for a bit longer. But on the other hand, to say it's your fault for getting ill because you didn't have the vaccination, I think, again, tantamount to callous, tantamount to the other side of you'll do as we say, or probably we're not going to treat you now. Will that happen? I don't know. But again, it asks a lot of questions that are still yet to be answered, and we're still yet to see how it will play out in the long run. Anyway, bit of a philosophical Sunday morning, if I'm to be honest. Anyway, and finally, some good news, all right? Something to put a bit of life and a bit of spring in our step, all right? Stefanos Tsitsipas, he's the tennis player. It seems he secured a place in the Barcelona Open final with a 2-set victory over the younger Italian Yannick Sinner. This is the second. He's the second-seeded Greek, appeared to have had all the time in the world, they said, never allowing Sinner an opportunity to get into the match. It took just 1 hour and 13 minutes for him to overcome Sinner with a winning 6-3, 6-3, as the teenager failed to make a break point opportunity against him at all through the whole of the match. Anyway, today Tsipras will face either Rafael Nadal, which he's faced before, and beat him. So again, that's pretty good. Or he might even see Pablo Carneiro Busta. But he also joked in a post-match interview that he would learn Spanish in time for next year if he wins the tournament, and also he's in Madrid next week as well. Anyway, it feels great to be back in the final, he said, reflecting on his 2018 loss against Nadal. He lost that. I remember that last year in Barcelona at their showpiece event. Anyway, Tsipras is the youngest player to have reached the top 10 in the Association of Tennis Professionals, the ATP, and has had a career ranking of number 5 in the world, making him the highest ranked Greek player in history. And I wish him all the best. I really do. I hope he pulls it off. And I'm not sure if he's going to get to Wimbledon, if we have a Wimbledon this year, but we shall wait and see what happens, all right? Anyway, let's have a look, see who's tuning in. I see my brother Simon is tuning in. It was his birthday last week, so nice to see you tuning in. Teresa Ann Huggett is tuning in as well. Alf Ling is watching as well. Emma Marku is watching. Dave Matthews is also watching as well. Nice to see you here, Dave. Shane Bowen up there on Exmoor is tuning in as well. Lyndon is also here as well. Amanda Gregory is tuning in. Looking forward to seeing what your weather forecast is for today. I can feel a bit of a wind getting up, so I'm not sure if you're hearing that on the mic at the moment. Rob Davis is also watching. Raf Reg Buddy. Jan Lawrence is also watching as well. Denise Driscoll is watching too. Susie Angus is also tuning in. Nice to see you tuning in as well. Chick Valentine over there is tuning in as well. Raf Reg Buddy, nice to see you. Janet Cooney is watching. Also Dave Lowry, nice to have you tuning in. Alison Wadsworth as well. My old mate Bob Cave sat there probably on the banks of the Thames with his fishing rod in his hand, probably tuning in as well. Barbara Telfer is watching. Also Lindsay Lamb, who lives on the island, is tuning in. Noreen Carter is also watching as well. Julie Stevens is watching in. Graham Bint over in Australia, nice to have you tuning in as well, fella. I liked you putting your picture up yesterday of the book by Bob Shepherd, and everybody started putting their copies of their books they found in second-hand bookshops of the book called The Circuit. It's the one that I've got. I haven't got the second book, but I've certainly got The Circuit, of which Jane managed to get secretly online for me as a Christmas present one year. But anyway, cheers for that, fella. Graham, Alan Woodhouse is also tuning in. Denise Tyndall is watching as well. Philip Ellis is watching. Delia Gossetti is watching as well. Linda Saunders Andrew the Fridge Watkins over there in Wales. Karen Bush also tuning in as well. Lovely to see you, Karen. Joan Bamford is also tuning in as well. Christopher Lloyd James also as well. Lucy Dyke as well. Wendy Norcliffe, Jerry Coyle, Nick Haviland, Margaret Miller, Simon Coldwell. That's my brother, by the way. Nice to have you tuning in, buddy. Great talking to you as well this week. I was chatting to Mum yesterday, but that's by the by. Anyway, Simon, nice to see you. And also Raina Pete Dillon, who do not live in Limassol or in Cyprus, but live in Manchester. I bet they wish they did live there. Anyway, they're tuning in as well. Nice to see you. Ian Daly, Christine Coldwell. Nice to see you tuning in from Leighton Buzzard as well. And Jean Lellis is also watching as well. Right. That's it from me for today. Just to remind you, I'm back on air again on beachradio.co.uk tonight, 7 o'clock. No, it's like 5 o'clock your time over in the UK until 7 o'clock. That's 7 o'clock my time here. But anyway, I'm on there with the Northern Soul Show. 2 hours of fantastic Northern Soul. Thank you to those people who tuned in last night again to the repeat of the Friday Dance Anthem show. It was great having a little chat in the chat room with people. Big shout out to Sam Curtis and also your man Shane up there on Exmoor, Mr. Iggy as well. Lovely to have you tuning in and checking out. So that's it for me at the moment. I'll keep my ear to the ground, see what's happening. It is a beautiful day here today after the horrible weather we had yesterday. And just checking, make sure there's no weather forecast. No, there's no weather forecast. Anyway, I'll give her a day off. There's no problem. But anyway, it's a beautiful day today. We're now into our Easter week, the beginning, going into Easter here in Greece for the Orthodox church worshippers. And we'll see how this week pans out, and we'll see what is in store for us this week. Anyway, you take care, have a great day, stay safe, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Ta-ra.